Imagine the following scenario. You have just finished brewing your morning coffee and have not even taken a taste of it when all of a sudden, a wild boar that is the size of a refrigerator is tearing through your potato field. The situation is not a Hollywood production. Rather, it is the nightmare of a farmer who is really genuine. What caused him to become so enraged? If you don't keep watching, you won't realize the surprising twist that comes at the conclusion. One who cultivates land and lives in the tranquil countryside of San Marcos. Cornfields, a few goats, and the tranquility of the afternoon sky used to be the focal points of his life. A guy like me, who has never done anything other than hold a hoe, has never been a hunter. Hunting has always been the job of professional hunters. Nevertheless, everything was different when the wild boars arrived. In addition to tearing down fences and plowing through crops, they bred at such a rapid pace that no one was able to keep up with them. They were not only responsible for destroying harvests, but they also occasionally attacked people and caused problems in the lives of other animals. The sound of snorting and screeching could be heard coming from the bushes every night, and it was like a nightmare that was happening in real life. After countless nights of devastated fields, the people finally reached a point where they could no longer bear it. There was a decision made by him and his team to conduct a large-scale hunt. It is not for the sake of showing off as much as it is to safeguard the crops, maintain their meals, and defend their way of life. During the daybreak, when the leaves were still covered in dew and the woodland was still drenched in the moisture of the night, the hunt was formally declared to have begun. When he approached the forest for the very first time with a rifle in his hand, he had the sensation of being in the middle of an archery competition while clutching a hoe. He felt a burning sensation in his chest, despite the fact that the early air was chilly and heavy with the smell of saturated soil. His movement was accompanied by a small group, with each member being allocated a distinct location, weapons loaded, and hunting dogs leashed and ready to go. The only sounds that broke the quiet were a few nods, hand signals, and the piercing barking of dogs. There was hardly any communication between the two parties. This caused his heart to skip a beat each time he brushed aside a limb, so he took his steps with extreme caution. There were a lot of boars in the forest, but everyone was looking in the same direction. The barking became more aggressive, which was a sign that the boars were getting closer. In spite of the fact that he had never gone hunting before, he was certain of one thing: there was no going back now when it came to hunting. The dogs made a racket. Then, things went off the rails. The wild boar, which was as large as a refrigerator and had tusks, suddenly emerged from the bushes. His reflexes prompted him to take immediate action. He raised his gun and pulled the trigger as soon as he was startled. Wham! Even though the initial shot cut through the air, it was only able to scare the beast. After pausing for a fraction of a second, it resumed its forward momentum and proceeded to blast through the underbrush like a swirling tornado. There was no let-up from the hounds. Keeping his eyes fixed on the objective, he gave chase while taking deep breaths. When things eventually started to slow down, he made the most of the opportunity, had ceased, and shot once more. After collapsing and kicking a few times, the pig eventually became still. His heart was thumping as he approached. As he stood there, staring at the trophy that he had worked so hard to earn, he did not utter a single word. There was a clean shot that was so quiet that it caused the entire woodland to be silenced for a little while. Do you think that his first shot was the result of pure luck or a result of his instincts? I would appreciate it if you could leave a comment below. About halfway up the slope, he came face to face with a fellow colleague. At that point, the bushes made a tiny rustling sound, as if something heavy had just slid through. In order to indicate, the other man lifted his hand, and his eyes were filled with a mixture of stress and caution. As he turned, his heart came dangerously close to bursting out of his chest. An enormous wild boar was crouching low to the ground, its body jet black for bristling, its big body resembling a charging excavator that was ready to power up. Without pausing for a second to consider his options, the beast plunged headlong for his teammate at a scary rate of speed. Rocky debris and dirt flew. As if it were a sword, the boar screamed or launched itself into the air. The sound of a gunshot was followed by another. Both of the men were left gasping for air, and their hearts were beating as fast as war drums as the boar skidded, turned suddenly, and fled into the woodland. With only one blow from the monstrosity, A grown man could be rendered completely unconscious. It had to weigh at least 120 kilograms. It was crystal evident to him, at that very moment, that this hunt was going to be anything but a game. Survival was the goal. Despite the fact that the quest was about to enter its final stage, the strain continued to increase. The gang, including him, did not exhibit any symptoms of slowing down. As the light of the afternoon began to wane, they noticed that there were additional wild boars hidden near the border of the woodland. Almost immediately, the group dispersed itself without the need for a signal. Despite the fact that it was encircled from numerous sides, the boar continued to bolt like a missile, its huge body smashing through the grass and bushes. A series of bursts of gunfire were heard, but the target was able to escape into the woods, leaving behind a trail of ripped soil and a pack of hunting dogs that were relentlessly pursuing them. One member of the squad rapidly made his mark, refusing to allow disappointment keep him from moving forward. It was discovered that there was another boar hidden in a nearby thicket. It was all over with a single shot that was piercing, icy, and decisive. It looked as though that moment brought back the energy of the team. Unfazed, the dogs continued on their way. They remained close to the trail of every breath that the boars left behind, despite the fact that they were exhausted but resolute. Should they not have been present, it would have been hard to keep up with the pace of the hunt. He was well aware of that. According to his own thoughts, these individuals are the true soldiers. A further boar, exhausted and helpless, made its way into a clearing before the others. He did not show any reluctance. A change in strategy was implemented by the squad, which broke up and began employing sound to lure the prey out of hiding. And just as it was supposed to happen, the last boar made its appearance, only to be halted by a shot that was both exact and decisive from a member of the squad. Even though there was a lull in the fighting, people's hearts continued to race. Please leave a 0 in the comments section if you did not enjoy watching this movie. He went back to his fields, where rows of potatoes were waiting to be harvested. When the hunt had subsided and the situation had become more peaceful. From my perspective, what strikes me most about this story is not the thrill of the hunt, but the deeper tension between survival, ethics, and the limits of human resilience when faced with forces of nature that seem overwhelming. Wild boars are not just pests. They represent a systemic problem, one that grows from ecological imbalance, lack of natural predators, and human farming practices that unintentionally create environments where such animals thrive. So, while I fully understand the desperation and adrenaline of that farmer's first hunt, I cannot help but think beyond the moment of survival toward the broader questions this conflict raises. On one level, the act of hunting boars is necessary, even inevitable, for many rural communities. It is not about sport or personal glory. It is about safeguarding livelihoods, protecting food security, and preserving the dignity of those who depend on the land. In this sense, I cannot criticize the farmer for picking up a rifle despite never having considered himself a hunter before. Necessity pushes ordinary people into extraordinary roles, and this story captures that transformation with raw intensity. Yet, I believe that if we stop at hunting alone, we are locked into an endless cycle, a battle that humans may temporarily win but never truly resolve. The more important question, in my view, is how to break this cycle. Hunting may bring immediate relief, but it does little to slow the boar's reproduction or their steady expansion across farmland. A deeper, more strategic approach is needed. Population control through sterilization programs, collaborative land management across communities, and investment in intelligent deterrent technologies like corral traps, motion sensors, and drones. These solutions are more complex, more expensive, and less dramatic than the crack of a rifle, but they are also more sustainable. Without them, farmers will continue to live in fear, forced into battles that risk both their safety and their peace of mind. Another dimension that troubles me is the ethical one. While I respect hunting as a survival necessity, I believe any solution should strive to minimize unnecessary suffering, both for the animals and for the humans involved. When farmers are forced to become soldiers in their own fields, something larger has failed, not just the local ecosystem, but also the broader policies that should protect rural life. Governments and agricultural agencies must recognize that these are not isolated stories of man versus beast, but signals of a larger ecological imbalance that requires collective intervention. Ultimately, I see this story as a powerful reminder that modern farming is no longer just about tilling the soil or tending livestock. It is about navigating unpredictable battles where survival, ethics, and innovation collide. The first shot fired by that farmer may have been instinct or luck, but the real future will not depend on chance. It will depend on whether we can transform fear and desperation into coordinated, intelligent strategies that ensure both human survival and ecological balance. To me, that is the challenge and the opportunity that stories like this lay bare.